2022 Sprinter 3500 true 4x4. This one is a beauty. If we start up front, we've got the two factory swivels. And if you take notice, I'm shooting after dusk. It's just starting to get dark. And it allows the actual van lights to take over the scene. And that's rare. Usually we always shoot during the day. Let me turn on this reading light. Put that right on that table there. Yeah, look at this. So we've got our table, lagoon table on the passenger side, and we can swing that out of the way. But this is the real feature up front here. Look at this. This is an office. Raised platform, and that floor is heated. And I've got storage bays underneath, and then I've got a storage bay for your toes. You can slip your toes in under there and stretch out a little bit while you're working. Nice big area for your laptop. You can put a monitor on that wall. This is a walnut office. There's a cubby up top. There's a window. We've got 120 volt USB, all our lighting. And look what this table does. When you're done and you're ready to travel, you swivel your seat around. You got plenty of room to drive the van. This is the front office for Roxie. Roxie is the go anywhere, do anything sprinter, 4x4. So you swivel the driver's seat around, and there's going to be this little nice office with cubbies along the refrigerator wall. So this was our prototype to make sure we could prove the concept. So when you're sitting here, this is a raised platform for your feet. And we've got this little cutout so you can stretch out, put your toesies under here. It gives you a little more leg room. And then these will be little storage cubbies. And then, of course, with 80/20, very similar to what we did on the Beast with the pull-out slide for that little bench, that little stool that Yvonne sits on. So that's how we extend this table. This is her desktop table. And then when she's sitting here along that wall, we'll have room for a monitor, computer monitor or a television, some more shelving up on top and down the sides. It's going to be a nice little office. This is all going to be walnut. We're going to do some nice laminate work here as well. But today, John came in here and worked on this slide. He made his aluminum, cleaned it all up, rounded off the edges. We got a little rubber pad for that to sit on. We can make it adjustable so that we're smooth on top, plumb and level. There you go. And then there is one surprise with this office. This van, Roxie, is getting radiant heat in the floor, as are the other vans. But Roxie also gets passive radiant heat. So what we have is a little heat exchanger under the floor of this raised foot panel. That's right, you see it. This is a little heat exchanger. It's actually an oil cooler for a race car. But I'm gonna send some hot glycol through here and send it back the other side and go heat it up again. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna give you some nice warm tootsies when you're sitting here. Sabrina's gonna be doing most of the work here. So she's going to pull this out when she sits down, open up her desk, warm tootsies. We're also putting ventilation grills right here, Art Deco ventilation grills, and that heat can come out passively into the front of the cabin. Right? Look at this. I sit right here, pull that out, lift my table up and over. Look how nice. And of course, my lighting. I'm a big proponent of lighting. I've got up here, I've got a reading light, right? And then I have a puck light, lights up the whole thing. Then I've got a mood light. If you're having dinner instead of working, put on the mood light. That's very romantic. So you can see here there's a second lagoon stick. Now we can move this walnut table onto that stick, raise it up to a certain level, and put a big induction cooker here. And what that does is it extends the countertop flush so he can cook on his massive favorite induction cooker. And again, look at all the lighting. Very big on lighting. Right now, everything is up. Everything's on. And if you look at my little switch pad here, these owners are boaters as well as RVers. And this spells out Roxie. Roxie is the name of the van. That is the wife, Sabrina's mom, who passed away. So we're paying homage to her. Roxie, in nautical terms. My light switches, isn't that cool? That's down low, underneath. I gotta show you every one. Now look at that stainless steel. Look at how it lights that up. See? Gorgeous. And then up top, under there, we've got task lighting. And then our puck lights. Brighten it up again. All right, let me go back to the front here. This is a communication cabinet. There's going to be a lot of components in here with antennas on the roof and whatnot and so forth. So the owner's going to take care of that part of the build. You notice here that office, this nice little detail. It's like a little short wall that makes it even more cozy and secluded back around that corner. Isn't that nice? Cruise 195 refrigerator freezer. We don't fool around here. This is the best of the best. This van has a Houghton 3500 Bel Air AC air conditioner with a heat pump and soft start. It also has the Nomadic Cooling X3 3000 DC air conditioner. We made our own faceplate for that, a little bit bigger than the one that came with the unit. Coming back this way, tongue and groove ceiling, handmade, and we do our aluminum vinyl wrap stretchers going across, 4-inch puck lights. Here's our shower box. So we do a combination of walnut, 80/20 aluminum, and maple. Now this shower box is very deliberately made out of maple to open up the van. If it was all walnut, it would just be this massive hulking dark mass. So that lightens things up and it widens the whole van. Then we've got a white Wilson Art countertop. That's called Glacier White. This countertop was particularly tricky because it had inside and outside corners. There was no room for error. It's a Corian kind of a product. It's a solid surface, but it's just got this wonderful feel to it. And we put a fiddle rail around the whole thing. Gooseneck faucet. We've got a Roll-F custom screen on both the side door and the rear. Our television is tucked away here until they're done for the evening. They can release that TV, sit in their swivels up front, and watch the TV. And then when they're done with that, they can close it up and put it away. No, they did not want it to swivel around to the bed. Specifically said no. Stainless steel backsplash. The galley here, major galley with a lot of drawers. This one is housing that induction cooker that I spoke about and their favorite pan. These people are important. They love cooking. They brought their own induction, and it has to have its own little place to set. A lot of the drawers, except for that one, a lot of the drawers have these sliding trays in them. You caught me, my 80/20 tools, doing a little bit of a tighten up. See that? This is an even deeper drawer. And then we put the slider on top. Options, baby. So you see this grill here in front of the sink, that vent. Down the bottom, the entire kick is ventilated. See that? We fabricated that in-house. That's ABS. Behind the trash and recycling bin is my homemade version of an Aldi passive radiant heat system. You see those yellow tubes on the wall? That's hot glycol. Very hot glycol. That is going to heat the air inside this box, this Galley box. And then when it does so, it's going to suck the cold air in from the floor, heat up this whole Galley box. It'll exit through here. But this whole thing will get warm. It'll passively heat the van. Radiant heat in the floors as well. We designed our subfloor inboard of the modules in the hallway to be removable in the future in case we had to maintenance or repair the radiant tubing under the floor. This is not your primary heat. This is supplemental. It's only here for additional detailed comfort when it comes to heating. So if we go in the shower, this is a nice big shower. Let me turn on the light. We've got 2 puck lights in here. I like a nice bright shower. So what we have in here, we have a rain head, and then we also have a really slick wand mounted on the wall back there. We're using a Trolino toilet on top of a handmade teak boardwalk. The first step is to cut a series of short pieces with concave ends using a drill press with a Forstner bit and a stop fence. These concave ends will later form the radius or rounded ends of the drain slots in the shower floor. Now we move over to the table jig, where the pieces are assembled. A long piece, just slightly longer than the shower pan itself, is set into the assembly jig. Then the short concave pieces are positioned in the spaces provided. And another long piece is set up against the short row. Normally, we would be gluing all these steps, but here, for demonstration purposes only, we are not gluing anything. This represents 1 row of the floor. Now that we have completed 1 row, we move over to the multiple jig station. Here, we can add to the single row, and then add to that double row to make a triple row, and so on until we have enough assembly to fit through the planer. With all the rows glued together, we pass that assembly through the planer. The planer planes or shaves off the top of the wood assembly. First pass will take away all the high tops. Second pass will tend to smooth and even out the entire surface. The floor is sectioned in half to enable easy removal from the shower pan floor. The entire floor is supported on its underside. And there are key tabs to aid in lining up the 2 halves. Once the finishing is completed, we will install rubber feet all across the bottom. And this here is a 3D printed cowling for one of the heaters. So we've got this bathroom spec'd out as its own zone for heating. It gets very warm and cozy in here when you want to take a military shower. You don't get that chill when you shut off the water. Now this aqua system here, you turn this dial one way, turn on your shower water. The water does not come out the rain head or the wand. While it's getting hot, it goes back to the fresh water tank. When this turns white, now you know you've got hot water here. You can turn this the other way and you'll get your warm water. So we're not wasting any water. You know how long it takes for your water to get hot when you want to take a shower. Well, while that's running in a van, you're wasting water. So here it goes back to the tank. You don't waste any. When it's hot, you take your shower. The shower curtain. Now we've had a couple of iterations on this. This is a half door. See, we got a mirror there. This is a half door. So when you want to take a shower, you close the bottom door. See this? Leave the top half open. Shower curtain comes around. You bring it around on its track. Right? Now, if you look at this, we've given you a little more elbow room for your shower. Okay, see how that curtain sticks out? Now, we've done 2 or 3 other iterations of this, and we feel this is the most elegant. This is a really nice system. Look how clean this is, right? All you do is pull that shower curtain around. When you're done with it, you just bring it all back and let it set on that one side wall. It looks nice over here. See that? Let it set right there. If you wanted to, when it's dry, you can gather it into the corner. But then, when the top of the door is closed for the shower, you can see that track is there. It's hiding in plain sight. It's not bad to look at even. It's elegant. Look at what we did with the little 80-20 brackets. We bent the shower track with a heat gun, and we made our own brackets out of a little 80-20. How cute. Works well. Moving further down the line, down the end of the aisle here, we've got I think that's a JVC. It is a drawer microwave convection. It's a beast. It's the only one of its kind. And if you look under it, another heating zone. There's 3 zones. One was in the bathroom that you saw. The second zone is here, heating up this whole aisle down to the cabin end with the radiant in the floor. The other zone is under the bed in the garage. It's going to create convection, and warm up the whole van. Down here on the end of the stainless steel backsplash, we have our AquaHot control panel. The AquaHot. I've been waiting a long time for this. This little box right here, along with a furnace under the van, is going to give us 3 separate zones of heating, independently controlled zones of heating and hot water, okay? And they all make nice and play together very easily. Very simple touchpad. This has RVC connectivity, so we could actually run this through the Victron Serbo GX. But I think it's best to keep it separate. I think you want to see a separate thermostat for your heat and your hot water. So I'm going to give you a quick run through because I think the way they created this system, it's very simple and very ingenious. Now, this may look like a lot, but it really isn't. It really isn't. The whole box comes apart. Look how simple it is inside. Heat exchanger. This is what we've been using anyway in our closed loop hot water systems. The exact same copper plate heat exchangers right here. Here's a blue AB valve. We've been using these under the van. So a lot of these components we're already using in our builds. I won't have to make my hot water as we drive anymore. I won't have to keep a glycol reservoir. I won't have to keep a water tank, heated water in a tank. This is on-demand hot water. So as long as you have water in your freshwater tank, you can make hot water. And it's regulated to 120 degrees. So let me give you a quick rundown. The way this thing works, it's pretty cool. There's glycol. This is a glycol reservoir, okay? So very simply, you connect a hose, right? A radiator hose that goes under the van. and that connects to your furnace. This furnace will sip whatever fuel you have in your coach. Are you diesel? Are you gas? There's a furnace for each of those. This one happens to be diesel for Roxie. So this burner goes under the van, okay? The glycol gets pumped to the burner where it's heated up. Then it comes back to the unit, okay, as hot glycol, right? Then it goes out to my heat modules. These are heat exchangers. Look at these. These are pretty slick. See this little box? It's basically a heat exchanger like the back of your air conditioner, right? Or your radiators with two fans in the back. In, out. But what's cool about this now, so the hot glycol came from here. It wasn't hot when it left here. It goes to the burner where it's heated. Then it comes back, and then it goes all throughout the van. Now, obviously, these hoses are going to be much longer because we're getting from this unit throughout the van. So the hot glycol comes through here. You set a thermostat temperature for zone 1, right? This is zone 1. And the fans will kick on and heat zone 1. Then you still watching? Then you send your glycol further down the line to zone number 2. Okay? Look how cool this is. It's daisy chaining. You're running these things. Can you see this now? Right? So in the case of Roxie, zone 1 is going to be under the microwave at the end of the aisle, down under the microwave. This zone is going to be going into their shower box. They have a big shower room. So we're going to heat that room as well. And of course, you remember that we don't bring our wall all the way up to the ceiling, or door all the way up to the ceiling. So that warm air is going to spill out into the cabin as well. Then you would go on to zone 3. In the case of Roxie, zone 3 is radiant heat, which includes radiant heat in the floor. It includes a radiator or a heat exchanger similar to this behind the galley, and another one under the platform for the office. And you can control these zones independently of one another. So if you wanted to, you could just leave the radiant heat and those passive radiators on. Quiet. That's a very calm, quiet, gentle heat, and it's non-directional. These have fans, so you're going to feel this air moving up into the cabin. And the fans, they're very quiet. These are, they're like computer fans. They're very quiet. 35 decibels. A whisper is 45 decibels. Normal conversation is 65 decibels. So this is just going to be a faint white noise in the background. The furnace is also going to make a little bit of noise. Okay? So they give you all the components you need. They give you everything in this system. Let me get this out of the way for a minute. You got how this works, right? I think it's very simple. The glycol is always flowing through all 3 zones and the hot water. Glycol's always flowing. What causes you to turn the temperature up or down is if you turn on the fans. Okay, if you turn on the fans, you're stealing some of the heat from that traveling glycol. Heats up your area. And then we have these, I don't know where they are, these little thermistors. We got these little thermostats, these little heat sensors that we place strategically in each zone. So you will know if it's getting too hot up front, you can turn down that zone independent. This is really nice. And, I've always been a proponent of keep it simple, stupid, right? I don't want a lot of complex things to fail. This is really no different than the Webasto and the closed loop glycol hot water system that I put in the van already. It's just that they put everything in one self-contained box, which I love, because if anything goes wrong with this, you just take these hoses off, pull this out, replace a component, or replace the whole damn thing. It's easy. That's what I like. When you move into the bedroom now, over the foot of the bed, a queen-size bed, I might add, we've got this beautiful, massive cabinet, sliding doors, starboard, white starboard. All of my cabinets, the rear walls are removable, so we can run wire at a later date. And of course, you see my little ventilation at the top. I want airflow throughout the entire van. Not afraid of that. Everything's insulated, airflow. Got a little galley cabinet here over the galley. And this is where our fuses are. Easy peasy. Put a little spline on the bottom of that. I'm a big proponent of access. You know that. I want to be able to have access to everything. Nothing should be a headache. You're supposed to be on vacation having fun. Capsules. We've got the capsule extensions on the side walls. Preparing to put on these capsules. After the hole is cut, you've got to come in here with a sandpaper, maybe a 220 grit, and scuff up. You can see we have a little pen line to show us where the capsule ends. So we scuff up everywhere that capsule is going to hit our chassis. And right now, Ron and John are putting a very specific bead on the inside of the capsule. There's a special nozzle that comes with the kit that gives you a tall triangular bead. You can see how that's tapered. And it actually has an edge guide, so Ron can just keep going straight right down the line. Now, what is this glue? What type of glue is this?
Urethane.
It's a urethane adhesive. This is what they use to put windshields in. Tube change. We're using a Milwaukee powered caulk gun. What would we do without this caulk gun? That was a Christmas present. Very important that there are no gaps in that bead anywhere around the capsule. Ron makes that turn. He's heading down to the last turn. Ron and John have trained hard for this moment. And there's John turning the capsule.
Big responsibility.
This capsule insulation is best done with two men. They are a very, very good fit to the side of this Sprinter van. When we dry fit them, it was incredible. You can hear that urethane. Incredible. So now John is going to go around the perimeter of this capsule and make sure his seams and gaps are equal. And Ron is on the inside. He's now going to drill through the flange and put two bolts, through bolt, at the top. That's the only place you have access to bolt the flange, as per the directions from the company. Two bolts at the top, nowhere else. You can see we have this one in already, and we got a nice even squeeze out all the way around the seal. That urethane is very, very dense, very thick. The placement of the bead is very important. You cannot get any squeeze out coming out this way. You'll never get it off the chassis. It's a god-awful mess, that stuff. Ron's through bolting. He's got a couple of C-clamps up there just to hold it in place.
Yep.
Yeah, that's still got to get pulled in. You can see how that urethane is so dense that it is literally holding the capsule away from the chassis. You've got to exert a tremendous force to bring that capsule in, but you don't want to squeeze out so much of that urethane. You don't want to starve that joint. It's got to be full of urethane. So there's a sweet spot where you've got to decide on how big you want that gap and how even can it be. And I used a flare space window because it's an awning window as opposed to a slider. I prefer awning windows. You can open them in the rain. We've got a Caframo fan down at the end. Each of this couple have a reading light. There's a USB down that end. I believe Sabrina will sleep down there. And Chris is going to man the controls up here. These are your spreader lights for security and a critter light underneath the van. Spreader light on the passenger side. Okay. Then we have spreader lights in the back. We have spreader lights on the port side. And look under that van. We got critter lights. You know what that means? You won't have any critters. Critters don't like light. They'll move on to another van. Night light for when you're sleeping and you got to get up and use the bathroom. Turn the night light on. It's a red light. There's your bathroom dimmer. Ooh, look at that. That's nice. Another USB, another 120 volt outlet. Then we come over here to our command panel. This is all my breakers. We have a Serbo GX touch screen for Victron. Turn the battery on and off. Here's a Lithionics gauge. Lithionics is also read here and on your phone. Shower light, fresh water. Very accurate fresh water gauge. And then all of our AC and DC lines are breakers right here. I love this look. It's reminiscent of the boating world. I love the analog and digital combination. Here, we've got two pantries. It's tough for me to shoot and work at the same time here. See that? Double pantries. Isn't that cute? And rather than have an impossible clasp to keep those closed, because let's face it, you all know how heavy a pantry's going to get when you load it with canned goods and stuff. So we put in a toggle lock right here for driving. Keeps your bed step and your pantries closed. When you're parked, you turn it that way. And now you don't have to struggle to open that door. Now look at this thing. This is a step in disguise. Look at the treatment we made on this thing. This is the bed step. Look at that. How quick that was. How easy. That's your bed step to get in and out of the bed. And yes, there's your inverter and a couple of breakers for solar. See the green light? You always want to see the green light. You don't want to see a blinking orange light. You don't want to see a red light. That's why when you pull down the bed step, you can put eyes on your inverter. That's how I like it. And it just closes right back up, and it looks like a dresser. Back here, we got an Owl tire rack. Look at this. Look at the garage light. That's a full bar, right? You can't appreciate it unless it was off. Turn it on. The garage, aqua hot. 3 zones of heating, radiant floor, and hot water. Storage, my 80-20 bars, we call this the jail. This is protecting all of our hoses and hot glycol tubes. Sure, I could cover all this up and make it a very pretty looking garage, but why would I want to do that? Because when the hose bursts and the glycol starts spilling everywhere, you're not going to know it until it's very late in the game. I like to keep eyes on all my components. 4 zones of water. Each one can be isolated individually. Here's your water pump in there. You've got valves to drain this system for winter immediately and then re-energize it for the next weekend. Onboard compressor, right? This is your freshwater fill, 50 gallons of fresh water. Vent, outdoor warm water shower, 2 Lithionics 640 amp hour lithium batteries, 2 of them. Bridges, twin bridges, 15 series 80/20, straddling each wheel well. We knew these bridges were coming, so we doubled up on the floor joists underneath our subfloor. So we're transferring this weight directly down through the plywood, through the joist to the chassis floor. We're not sitting in the middle of 2 joists and bowing that plywood. We got a lot of weight here. We're going to be putting in 3/8 inch bolts with washers all the way through the chassis floor, through the plywood, through the joist, down to the chassis floor. Big nuts, big washers, prime sealed, and then we're going to undercoat under there. So the way these bridges are going to be fastened is we've got bolts with plus nuts going into the side walls of the chassis to prevent this. And then we've got both sets of legs on each bridge tied down with 3 bolts through 1/4 inch angle through the chassis. They're not going anywhere. We're trying to fight inertia because we've raised the center of gravity by bringing these up. This is a 50-gallon water tank. 50 gallons of water, including the weight of the tank, you're almost 450 pounds. Now, we're going to have our access hatches, 2 access hatches in this water tank. We're going to fill this tank with those wiffle balls. Okay, fill it. And what that's going to do, it's going to eat up about 5 gallons of water space, right? The volume of these wiffle balls is going to eat up, displace 5 gallons of water. And then our sending unit, we have a sender that we put down through the top of the tank, and it rides up and down on a shaft as the water goes up and down. That tells us whether we're full or empty on the gauge. So now, because we've got those wiffle balls in here that could cause a problem with that sliding up and down, we're going to encase that in a 4-inch cylinder with holes in it. So now that is going to be solid and free inside that caisson, that cylinder, and all the balls are around it. Perfect. It'll be working uninterrupted. On this side, we've got 2 Mamalukes, the new Lithionics 630 amp hour battery. They are straddling the axle. There is no better place to put your heavy weight in the van than right over the rear axle. So this is ideal, ideal. For 1,280 amp hours, that's like 17,000 watt hours. 200 watts of portable solar. This is the back of that microwave. You see that white grill down there? That's one of our heating zones. We've got a cherry laminate floor, waterproof, offers some sound insulation as well. Walnut bulkhead. We've got the roll-F screen back here. How nice. I'm telling you, this van turned out really well. Plenty of room back here for what they want to bring with them. And like I say, most important to me, day to day, they got their eyes on their components. This is not like living in a house where you bury all your utilities in the basement and you won't know anything's wrong till you step off that last step down there into a puddle of water. Vans are very different. So, turn out this light. Good night.